welcome to the Vagabond Way podcast. The journey goes ever on with the long road. This episode, Vagabond Soldiers Onwards. Steve Bonham, the Vagabond philosopher, makes an impassioned plea for the future of the music industry in the UK, and we give an airing to an old favourite from the Dr. Biglove era, a song called The Naked Juggler. Kev Moore takes us on the next leg of his epic round-the-world journey of his favourite cafe spots. This week we are in the Czech Republic. And the Bishop, that's me, I sneak a look back at some favourite moments from songs in the Long Road back catalogue. The Vagabond Way podcast featuring the Long Road is exploring the world of the troubadour, the adventurer, the vagabond. The world isn't beige, it isn't processed, it's authentic, it's rich, and it's real. And if those are the sorts of sentiments that make your brain light up, then hop on board. We are embracing all of those things, celebrating all of that, and we'd love it if you joined us on the journey. Greetings, I am Chris the Bish Leiden. Welcome to another episode of Trundling Along Life's Road. Some news before I forget, as we're reaching a nice round, completely arbitrary landmark number of podcasts next week. Next week will be episode 30. We're going to take a couple of weeks off after that episode just to recharge the batteries a little bit, and we'll be back with regular episodes in August, so just 2 or 3 weeks off. But why not, in the weeks bereft of fresh podcast content in between, check out our previous episodes, maybe even go all the way back to Series 1 from 2018, where episodes were shorter and perhaps less coherent. If you wanted a midsummer lullathon, for those in the Northern Hemisphere, why not check out the most listened to episode of our podcast ever, which was episode 8, which was released unto the world on the 21st of December 2018. When the world was a different place. And we called that one A Banjo-y Christmas Time. It featured mince pies, mulled wine, festive cheer, and, somewhat unexpectedly, some Christmas sausages. One of those rare occasions where we recorded the podcast live and in person with all of us present, actually. So that's just one of the many highlights of our back catalogue of podcasts. So why not step inside and have a root around? They're all upon Apple, SoundCloud, Spotify. Personally, I haven't dared listen back to any of the episodes yet. It's that same chunk of the brain that a lot of us have, I think, where we don't like to listen to the sound of our own voices on recordings and things. I spent the hours each week recording and editing the shows. I feel like I've listened to each one 4 or 5 times by the time it goes out anyway. One day, perhaps, I will muster up the courage. Maybe. Anyway, a little reminder before we move on to today's podcast content proper. Steve Bonham, the Vagabond philosopher, Kev, the big man Moore, and me, the Bish. We each have a curated playlist on Spotify now, and we'd love for you to join in the action and have a listen, and let us know what you think of the songs on there. To find the playlists, just go on Spotify, search for Anglo-Americana, that's Steve's. Anglo-Americana Moonshine Madness is Kev's. And Anglo-Americana Daydreaming is mine. You'll find a huge variety of songs in those lists there. Some of the stuff is similar to our own music. Some is stuff that's quite different. But there is a thread to all of it, in one shape or another. And remember to click the heart icon, follow or like or whatever it's called these days. And we'll be updating the playlist regularly to keep things interesting, hopefully. So anyway, now on to the rest of the show. Now, for the fact fans out there, by my reckoning, The Long Road have released 39 songs since our first full album back in 2016. Some of them are still songs that we love and play today, or we would do if we could be out there playing. But actually, some of them, I think, deserve to be resurrected, knocked back into performing shape. We've evolved a fair bit musically since we started out on this road. It's about 5 years ago. And I think some of the songs that we liked back then, but perhaps didn't quite make full sense to us, they would make more sense to us now. Some of them we might even think about re-recording in the coming months or years to benefit from this more sort of evolved sound and thinking. Anyway, this week I'm going to play a few little snippets from a few songs from the Long Road's back catalogue to whet your appetite a little bit. Or the full songs are all available on Spotify, Apple Music, loads of other digital retailers. If you want to indulge in the full things, please do. I encourage it. So my first 3 little snippets are from our first album that we put out as The Long Road back in 2016, called The Murmuring of Thieves. In general, this album had a more folksy feel to it than the sort of country, Americana-y, rocky, bluesy feel of recent albums. The sound that we call now sort of Anglo-Americana. The first snippet is from a song called London Midnight Talking, which has had a little upsurge of plays recently on Spotify, a spike in Japan back in June for some unknown reason. We still love playing this one live, and this recording has some wild bass playing on it from Dave Pegg. So check out the full version on Spotify, but here's a little snippet of London Midnight Talking by Steve Bonham and The Long Road.
Summoned up old ghosts, no will to hide away. The words still lingered like a spell at the dawning of the day. Midnight talking, a time of tumbling leaves, the shadows and the dancers, the murmuring of thieves.
Next up, this one has always been an absolute favourite of mine, but it's been for some reason a bugger for us to play live. Something tricky about the structure of it, or something that for one reason or other we could never just quite nail down. It was always a bit seat of your pants when we played it live. I always loved the imagery and the lyrics in this one. They're quirky left field chords. There's a change in tone or sort of landscape size from big and wide with the opening, but then things scrunch up tight and cozy in other parts. I just love it. So go and check out the full song of this one as well. This one is called it's got two titles. It's called The State I'm In, or The Mermaid Song. Honestly, you'll love it. Listen right to the end. Enjoy.
Hotel room, my feet against the wall. Must have been here 1,000 times, I must have seen it all. Feeling all I ever had could throw right out the door. There's a mermaid in the undertow, laughing at the state I'm in. Washed up here on the evening tide, sleek water slide off the softer skin. The spirit of Diogenes cursing the fatted cow. The king and all his courtiers summoned us to bow. Who in their dance...
Years ago, I remember thinking I wanted to do something a little bit different with the sorts of chords I'd offer up to Steve in our reverse Bernie Taupin Elton John arrangement, whereby I'd deliver him some mysterious chords and he'd have to grapple with them to come up with lyrics and a melody. One of these collaborations was a song called Nothing's Changed, which is the third track I'm going to play from our Murmuring of Thieves album. There's a bunch of things that I personally find interesting on this one. The instrumentation is a different way of using the banjo on this track. The meter changes. Sometimes there's 3 beats in a bar, sometimes it's 4 beats in a bar. Something that Steve's done to me for centuries now. I thought I'd throw it back at him for a bit. Hopefully that gives you a feeling of it being unsettled, but perhaps, hopefully, not too unsettling, if you see the distinction there. Anyway, so this is Nothing's Changed.
Thought that dawn was breaking. Now I find my heart still aching. there to find. So nothing's changed, nothing's changed, nothing's changed, so nothing's changed.
So now we move ahead to 2018. The next track I'm going to play a snippet from is from our Girl with the Rattlesnake Heart album. This one's another collaboration between me and Steve in terms of songwriting. I clearly remember this one was prompted by taking two influences from two distinct songs. I'll be buggered if I can remember which songs it was, but it was definitely two songs. And I feel like this one started off life in the studio in Woodworm when we were recording, with me messing around on the piano after Steve said, how about we do something a bit like song X, whichever one it was, or how about something like song Y? And I sort of fused those two ideas together. And ultimately this one became this song, which is called Beautiful Broken Dream by Steve Bonham and the Long Road.
The spirits of the greenwood, the stars up in the trees, could not protect us from the wound to the heart of the Cherokee. We were broken and forgotten. They cut the green corn down to plant the fields of cotton, or freedom to confound. Hear my people crying for a beautiful broken dream, slipping and a sliding along the mountain stream, the forest and the backwoods, in the dancing in the dark. Hear my people crying for a beautiful broken dream.
The last snippet I'm going to play here is from the sister album to that last track. The album, this one is called Reliance, also released in 2018, and this song is called No Particular Blues. And we quite often use this song as a show opener these days. It sets out our stall quite nicely. You know, quirky lyrics, bluesy chords, some unexpected twists, a chorus you can sing along to, though, hopefully, you know, foot-tapping stuff to draw people into the world of The Long Road. So, here is No Particular Blues from Steve Bonham and The Long Road.
Ain't no particular place I'm walking to, just looking for adventures, honey, they're starting with you. It's indisputable, a sign of the times. It's irrefutable, I crossed the line. Ain't no particular place I'm walking to, ain't no particular hole I'm falling down. I'm sinking the old boat, honey, I'm letting it drown. It's babological, we're touching the skies. Phantasmagorical, we're gonna fly. Ain't no particular hole I'm falling down. Wherever we go, wherever we sleep, whatever we find, you can keep. Let's believe in each other, leave the past at the door. Within, without, let's even the score. With the chorus in a burlesque show, painting your grease and powder, singing out of tune. Stage show soldiers without generals, afraid of smoke and mirrors, the harlot and the loon. That was a bit from an old song of mine called The Naked Juggler. It was a kind of Ryan Kurt Valian reflection on the lot of ordinary people, particularly musicians, actors and jugglers. And the fact is that nobody really values what you want or what you do, not substantively anyway. He's the naked juggler, lost his tricks and entrances, an idiot in role. He's the fool out on the high wire with smiling desperation, totally out of control. This has been a week of protests against the government under the banner of Let the Music Play, trying to encourage the ministers and good people in the palaces of Westminster to realise that 50% of the workforce in the music business face unemployment, and about 90% of the grassroots venues are in imminent danger of closing. And to try and attract attention, we've kind of made it clear that this is about £4.5 billion worth of revenue that this adds to the economy. We're all desperate for help, and I doubt, unfortunately, whether we'll get any. It's ever been thus, I think. Through the years, musicians are up there with vagabonds, scallywags, scoundrels, jugglers, snake oil salesmen, medicine men, thieves, and ne'er-do-wells as people whose proper place is on the edge of society and not embraced in the warm bosom of acceptance and regard. For a little while, and probably this is the bit that affects our mentality at the moment, this changed, maybe thanks to old Beethoven or Bob Dylan or the Beatles. For a while it was considered we may be capable of producing something worthy, something with a capital A, called art. And for a little while, and most of us in our lifetimes, that idea that somehow we could make a fortune from a record or a song or appear on the main stage at Glastonbury and be helicoptered in and out has kind of encouraged us to go on trying and working and pushing and pressing. And maybe all that's happening now is we're going back to our rightful place in the order of things. The trouble is, it's really hard to get by at all at the moment. Marsh Songs on Facebook wrote, "So what are we going to do? No one is buying records, streaming platforms are exploitative, venues cannot survive, social distancing, and they can't afford to pay us. Live streaming is at a saturation point. Songwriting used to be a lucrative profession, and that is now feeling like a burden to many writers. If an artist recorded one of your songs, as the writer you always had a percentage which was paid by the PRS. That percentage from streaming platforms is so small that when the checks come in, probably the costs go in the fuel to get to the bank to pay the check in. What are we going to do?" Well, Marsh, I've been thinking about this all week, and I can't say I've actually got a huge conclusion. The number one thing we can all do is, right now, from tomorrow, stop playing for nothing. One of my rules of life, rule number one, is the less they pay you, the more they think they are doing you a favour. The less they pay you, the more they think you are being done a favour to. I remember years ago turning up to a charity event, having been invited to play, getting on stage, plugged in, 1, 2, 3, 4, ready to go. And at that moment, a Salvation marching band marched in front of the stage and continued to march back and forward, playing at the top of their lungs all through our set. And that wasn't the only time. So don't play for nothing. Second rule, which is to build on that, don't play open mics. Open mic sessions are theft. I don't want to have my pint of beer ruined by listening to somebody singing Wonderwall or American Pie to one or two of his friends. because the publican is going to take their money for the beer that they buy. Tell the publican as you leave, okay, I'm going now until you get some decent music, mate. Pay for it. This is not the same as some of the great free sessions you can do in pubs. Sessions themselves, that's a different matter altogether. And I used to love the old folk club idea by which you would have one or two floor spots alongside the main act. And they wouldn't be paid on the whole. And that way you could learn your craft. And that was good, but you're only going to do one or two songs. Don't play for nothing. People don't value what they don't pay for. Rule 3. Fill in your PRS form. If you haven't joined PRS, do. Yes, it doesn't have the power it once did. But you sending your set list in to say you've played in a particular place gears the system to start cranking in your direction. It's worth it. It really is. When we were in Germany last year with the Long Road, it was interesting. Every single venue we had to complete and submit a set list and sign it, and that went into the system. Apparently in the next 25 years we should get paid some money, but at least I appreciated the fact somebody was making the effort. Rule whatever number we are up to now. Exposure is what you get when you sit naked in a snowfield, and not always when you get played on the radio. There's some brilliant DJs out there at the moment, and I don't want to miss somebody, so I won't name them all, but you know who you are. And if you're a good musician, know who the ones who are moving things along, shaping things, getting decent followings, causing a stir, getting some energy going, and get right behind them. They are our friends. They are giving us exposure. They are making us known to a large group of people. And the more we support them, the more we will get back. But blanket coverage, I'm starting to believe, doesn't really help so much. Find the winners and back them. And my final rule, don't wait for the big fat check. It's not going to happen for most of us. Pursue multiple ways of earning money. So each of these ways you can now get money from your music, from streaming, from downloads, from performing live, from YouTube, all provide small amounts of money, but if you add them up, that starts to be a decent return. It's, as my friend Chris always says, it's about chipping away at this and making sure you're covering all the bases and covering them as professionally as you possibly can. And last of all, because that was the last one and here's another, us vagabonds, us vagabond musicians, soldiers, let's band together actually. We, as single people fighting this system, can't win. As a group of people actively supporting each other and promoting each other, then we start to make a difference. And I have been amazed and really excited recently about the number of spontaneous self-help groups that are popping up in the music industry. And these sorts of things do attract people if we can work together to build some momentum. So those people who've invited us to submit videos for television, online television programs, tracks for new radio shows, created playlists on Spotify that include our stuff, we love you. We love you, and we're going to do that back right at you. Over and back to the Naked Juggler.
He's the Naked Juggler, lost his tricks and entrances, an idiot in roll. He's the fool out on that highway, smile and desperation completely out of control. She's the clown upon some thin ice, in immediate present danger of completely falling through. Applause was never what she asked for. She loved to lead the circus, embark on something new. We'd never say it should end this way. Afraid to go, don't wanna stay. Put your makeup on, you can't go wrong if you sing, sing, sing.
sing this song. With a chorus in a burlesque show, in painted grease and powder, singing out a tune. Stage school soldiers without generals, afraid of smoke and mirrors, the harlot and the loon. We'd never say it should end this way. Afraid to go, don't wanna stay. Put your makeup on, you can't go wrong. If you sing, 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 sing this song. Say it should end this way. Afraid to go, don't wanna stay. Put your makeup on, you can't go wrong. If you sing, 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 sing this song. We're all trapped in the footlights, not for us to trooper, not for us to spot. Singing out some gaudy serenade, someone else's poetry, a nurse has Camelot. He's the naked juggler, lost his tricks and entrances, an idiot in roll. He's the fool out on that highway, smile and desperation, completely out of control. He's the naked juggler. He's the naked juggler. He's the naked juggler. He's the naked juggler. Does this song ever finish?
You better ask the bishop, mate. Oh, there he goes. Hello again, and goodness me, it's that time of the week, and welcome to Kev's Cafe Corner once more. This week, ladies and gentlemen, we are visiting the Czech Republic and a little town called Locket, which in fact, for the interested among you, doubled as Montenegro in the film Casino Royale, where Daniel Craig's flying up the street in his car towards, I believe, the actual casino, which isn't there really, but it shows the car driving through the streets, and that is in fact Locket. And it's a beautiful little town. And it was frequented back in the day by Goethe, and he's got a cafe and a house there that sort of commemorate him. And I was in town because I was going to see Black Country Communion, the supergroup that comprises Jason Bonham, John Bonham's son, Joe Bonamassa, Derek Sherinian and Glenn Hughes, who's been a great hero of mine through my career. And as I was walking through the town on the day of the gig, which was in a big outdoor place at the foot of the cliffs where the castle is, I saw Joe walking along, just, with his baseball hat on. So I'm like, Joe, can I have a chat? I had a chat and got a picture with him, which was wonderful. And a little later in the day, before the show, I was in this restaurant cafe called Atmosfera, which was a beautiful place. It had like a sectioned dining area al fresco that was separate from the cobbled street by wooden fences sort of thing around it. So all the tables and chairs were enclosed within that, and nice sunshades dotted around. And they served the most incredible, never mind the coffee, which was fine, but the most incredible apple strudel with cream you could possibly wish for. So I'm getting that in my face. And I noticed Derek Sherinian, the keyboard player who'd played with Dream Theater and Billy Idol, various people, ironically replacing my namesake in Dream Theater, who goes by the name of Kev Moore. And he's there with the Black Country Communion's manager, and I just leaned over and they were discussing what to have after their main meal. And I said, if you'd like an immediate recommendation, Derek, I would go for the apple strudel, which he did. And he was most grateful for the recommendation because they seemed to love it. And I complimented him on the work that he was doing with Black Country Communion and how he really did the sort of John Lord vibe superbly well. And yeah, it was just one of those little towns where, because it was sort of out in the middle of nowhere, you could just hang with the band, you know. This is like a huge band. And to be able to hang with them prior to the gig was just really, really nice. And they gave an incredible concert. It was a beautiful day all day, but in the evening it absolutely hammered it down. And I got absolutely soaked and ruined my handmade Italian Converse style boots. But I still have them because, you know, it's a memento of the evening, isn't it? So if you want really good apple strudel, you need to visit Locket, which is a beautiful picture book chocolate box town with an amazing castle, you know, and some really nice cafes and history going on there. And it's brought me to the point with Joe Bonamassa, because I've been having a chat with Steve and Chris over the months about how the sort of heavier sort of vibe we're getting in our long road music, albeit an Anglo-Americana acoustic thing, it's getting a bit heavier in tone and intent. And Joe Bonamassa actually bridges that gap quite nicely in some of the areas of his music. And he did a really heavy version of the Ballad of John Henry, which is American folklore about the guy that allegedly was digging one of the tunnels on the railroads and pitted himself against this new steam hammer to cut through the rock and beat it, but at the cost of his life. And the Ballad of John Henry talks about that, and it's really quite heavy, but it's got that mountain men undercurrent to it. So this afternoon, in the space of 2 hours, I've tried to recreate my heavy version of the Ballad of John Henry. So give a listen, see what you think.
Take this hammer, carry to the captain, tell him why I've gone. Take this hammer, carry to the captain, tell him I'm gone. I don't want your cold iron shackles around my legs. I don't want your cold iron shackles around my legs. I said, John Henry, in the battle of sinners and saints, who killed John Henry? In the battle of sinners and saints. I'm a long way from Colorado, from my home. Get the hammer that killed John Henry, it won't kill me no more. Give me the hammer that killed John Henry, cause it won't kill me. Give me the hammer that killed John Henry, cause it won't kill me. Who killed John Henry? In the battle of sinners and saints. Who killed John Henry?
There you go, the Ballad of John Henry, as recorded by Little Old Me this afternoon. And I think it really does provide the missing link between the sort of heavier rock and blues and the Americana country feel, where the common denominator is storytelling, really, and the continuation of the folk tales so that they're not forgotten. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it, and Kev's Cafe Corner will be back again real soon. Take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend.
To report this week, beloved listeners. It's official. My waistline is, by Beelzebub himself, damned. It's been a quiet week baking-wise, I guess. You know, various bits of project work have sort of kept me quite busy, I suppose. I did, however, yesterday, once again, I fully admit to this, accidentally bake a batch of donuts. Who am I kidding? Is it baking when you deep fry something? I'm not sure. I accidentally deep fried a batch of donuts. I tweaked the recipe from last time, so they were slightly less wet and sticky, you know, even after they got to the just about to fry stage. Last time they were still very wet. This time they were more manageable. I'd added in a couple of extra spoons of bread flour as the dough mixed, which seemed to go okay. Everything still worked pretty well. And this time I wanted to try my new filling nozzle. 2 fillings this time. Some cheap raspberry jam, brackets seedless, and some cheap lemon curd. I mean, really, I should be making the fillings myself as well, but there's only so many hours in the day. Years ago, I bought these cheap, disgusting plastic small icing bags, useless for any sort of icing or filling project, really. The plastic was so rigid you could barely fold it over to fill the bag up well, or if you had folded it and filled up, unfolding it was virtually impossible without losing all the filling. It was just crazy. Anyway, yesterday I'd forgotten all about these obstacles, so decided, these will be perfect for using for my fillings, you know, small, not too much waste there. I needed to use them up anyway, but the bad memories soon came flooding back. You know, in one hand I held a recently deep-fried ball of hot dough, a few layers of slowly greasing a kitchen towel as protection. In the other hand, a not really fit-for-purpose plastic bag filled with slightly heated jam, so it would flow a little bit better, which was squeezing out of both ends of the piping bag, coating my hand, you know, the work surface, a portion of the floor at my feet, you know. Nevertheless, I managed to fill 6 donuts with the fillings, dust them with sugar, and eat 2 of them mere breaths later, and they were delicious. The mess in the kitchen was a terrible, terrible gift from past me to future me at that point. But I'm afraid Beelzebub demanded that I had a good sit down. And we find ourselves at the end of another episode. Thank you for listening, as always. Subscribe to the podcast. We're on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify. The next episode, which will be the last episode in this little clutch of episodes, will be out next week, Friday the 10th of July, 2020. And after that, we've got a little break of a few weeks, and then we'll be back in August for our regular shows again. You can always check out past episodes of the podcast wherever you listen. Have a dig around. Find us on social media, The Vagabond Way or Steve Bonham on the Long Road, and you'll find us. Check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Vagabond Way. If you use Spotify, please remember to follow us on Spotify. It helps the systems kick in. We're on Patreon at patreon.com/The Vagabond Way. Patreon is a great platform that makes it super easy for anyone out there, to support content that you love on a monthly basis. It gives you direct access to the people creating the stuff you love, us, hopefully, and you get to play an integral part in shaping the direction of the things that we make. So, become a Vagabonder. That's our name for our supporters on Patreon, to help us create music, live performances, books, short stories, this weekly podcast, and some new things that we're cooking up. As a Vagabonder, you can get the recordings and books we make for free, receive exclusive Patreon-only merchandise in the post, get regular behind-the-scenes updates from us, unlock access to exclusive live-stream performances and Q&As, and lots more. You can help us create something different, something that entertains, and something that inspires others. So, join us on the journey and release the vagabond within. Patreon.com/The Vagabond Way. Thank you once again, brave adventurers, vagabonds and explorers, for joining us on The Vagabond Way. Remember, the world isn't beige, it's authentic, it's rich, and it's real. Embrace every last bit of it. Until next time, the journey goes ever on with The Long Road. Bye for now.